Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Have you ever wondered what your life would be like if you suddenly discovered that you were a princess? That's what happens to the protagonist in this book, Tokyo Ever After by Emiko Jean, and Izumi, our main character, finds out that she is actually heir, one of the next in line to the Japanese empire, and that's what we're going to look at today. Look at this cover too, by the way. Isn't this just gorgeous? And we're going to look at this book today together. In this story, Izumi, or Izzy, the protagonist, learns that her long-lost father is actually the crown prince of Japan, and this book is the story of her reconnecting with her father, wrestling with the two different identities that she suddenly has, and trying to not reconcile, but trying to reunite her family a little bit. There's a hint of that as well. What happens in here is her mother and father met in college. Her father was in the United States on a study abroad kind of year, semester. They met, they fell in love, they ended up conceiving her, and then he had to go back to Japan. They were not in touch, probably too painful for Izzy's mom. And Izzy's mom has been raising her by herself for this whole time. Izzy is about to graduate from high school, and for some reason this urge to find her father is resurfacing. Her friend, who is the ultimate online stalker in the most helpful way possible, is able to track down some old records from the time that when her dad was studying abroad in America. And anyway, long story short, they end up reconnecting, her father and her. And so Izzy, or Izumi, as she's kind of going back and forth between figuring out what she wants to be called, she goes to Japan, and she has to immediately fit into the royal everything. The royal fanfare, the royal expectations, the royal protocol, and she's just this girl from Northern California, and she's like, I'm just here to meet my dad and reconnect with him, and yet she has to have all these princess duties put upon her, and she sometimes fails and sometimes succeeds, and this is the story of kind of all of the trial and errors that she goes through during her month or so in Japan. There's a little bit of love in this story as well that I think continues into the second book. Not just the love between her father and her mother, which kind of sparks towards the end. You see it coming, it's not a spoiler. But a little bit of a spark between Izumi and her royal guard, which is giving me, what book? Is it The Selection? Is it American Royals? Yeah, it's giving me American Royals vibes when Beatrice is falling in love with her guard, and of course the mess and the complications that come from that. So this book was fun. It took me a while to get into this book, and for the first time in a little while I felt like maybe this book wasn't for me. Although I feel like I felt this way with Downstairs Girl, but this felt very young adult. It was very, once I switched in to the mindset of, oh, this is a silly adventure story, kind of princess adventure story, then I was hooked and could get on board with it. But it took me a little while to get into. I'm glad that I stuck with it though. Let me know if you think I should read the sequel. I'm kind of on the fence. If you've read it and you think I should, let me know. I could easily be swayed to read the second one, but I could also, I've got so many books to read, right, that I could easily not. Literary elements in this book include, I don't know, it's just kind of your basic storytelling. One thing that I wish it had more of was the tension between her and her guard. I wasn't convinced that they hated each other enough, and I also wasn't convinced that they loved each other enough. It was a little bit of it was trying to do both and didn't quite do either. Some literary devices, I don't even know what to call this yet because it's such a modern, I guess, publishing move, is when texting is present in the chapter. So looks like your phone is in the page in a sense. So that's a literary element that's present. There is also something throughout called the Tokyo Tattler, and that's kind of the tabloid that covers the royal family. This book runs their articles, so you can see what is being said about Izzy and her faux pas and her successes as princess in Japan. One literary element that is so strong in here is voice. And I guess maybe that's just a technique, but the way that this is phrased with short fragments and sentences, like sarcastic quips that Izzy has throughout her narration in here, really make her voice come to life. And I think that if I were to include this in a classroom study, which probably would be done through a book club or a book circle or whatever you call it, I would really have my readers look at the voice in this story and how is it achieved. Like I said, namely through short sentences, through the sarcasm that's present here, and then you could see if you wanted to replicate that in your own kind of assignment, or you could have your students try to replicate her voice with an extension story, or this type of voice if you're working on voice with other characters, or if that's a unit that's coming up. Voice is really strong in here, and I think that's its most defining feature, is that Izzy's voice carries throughout, and it's a really fun one, a really sarcastic one, that maybe that's why it took me a little bit of time to get into, because I didn't realize how sarcastic she was at first, and I really ended up enjoying it as the book went on. Another fun thing too is it is set in Mount Shasta, which I've never heard a book set in Mount Shasta before. This is a Northern California town. It's fun because I'm from Northern California, so I always love it when books are set in areas where I've been before, and so it's partly Mount Shasta, but partly Tokyo, and the contrast there is strong. And it is also strong for Izzy as she's trying to figure out what sides of her make up her whole self. And if anyone has ever wrestled with feeling like that before, you will take solace in knowing you're not alone, because she is going through it, and hopefully it will end up giving you hope in the fact that all of these things that you are make up who you are. You can learn to pull on each one of those strengths that make you up, and all the weaknesses too, because that's all a part of it, and you don't have to choose just the princess side or just the Northern California side in Izzy's case, but together this is you. And so whatever that is for you, you might be able to have a little bit of a connection with her through that if you feel torn at any point in your life, or you feel like you have lots of different sides of you that make you up as one person. That's a really awesome thing, and something that should be celebrated, and ultimately that's something that she realizes too. And this is a great story for anyone who's feeling like that, or anyone who wants to have a little fun adventure into Japan. As a side note, I've been reading a lot of Japanese related books, looking for ones to pair with books like Farewell to Manzanar that I teach in my classroom and others. And something that's come from this is the mention of food and all of these delicious sweet snacks that happen in this book. So I'll Google those, and we have this awesome Japanese store in the next town over from me, and so I'm going there and like trying to like immerse myself in the experience. It's for the reading experience, right, that I have to get all these delicious snacks. And so anyway, that's been really fun, and now I'm like scrolling on Instagram, like typing in these snacks, so I've been really getting into like the Japanese cuisine a little bit more because of these YA books that I've been reading. So let me know what your favorite part of reading is when you like get into this new book or a new culture. Are you a foodie? I don't consider myself a foodie, but maybe after this I would. Alright, again, this is Tokyo Ever After by Emiko Jean. Go check it out and let me know what you think.